Today, General Motors releasing first quarter profits, shattering estimates. That's despite the global chip shortage that impacted most major car makers. A major U.S. manufacturer has to pay a multi-million-dollar settlement. It's for exporting technology to China. What did it send? And hackers made off with $30 million in cryptocurrency. We look at how it happened and if it's likely to happen again. And much more, coming up at NTD Business. Good evening. Great to have you with us. Treadmill maker Peloton is recalling 125,000 treadmills. That includes its popular Tread and Tread Plus devices. Last month, the government agency issued a warning about the equipment and asked Peloton to do the recall. That was after one child died and 70 others were injured in Peloton accidents. The company initially refused to do the recall, but today its CEO said sorry and said he shouldn't have pushed back against the request. Peloton shares are down over 14% today on the news. But GM shares are up over 4% today. America's largest automaker smashing analyst estimates despite the global semiconductor shortage. NTD's Arlene Richards has the details.
General Motors smashes analyst estimates for the first quarter, with adjusted earnings per share of $2.25, well over projections of $1.04.
You saw sales rebound much faster than anybody had expected. Americans have been returning to dealerships very, very aggressively over the last few months.
This, as well as higher car prices, contributed to GM's success, all despite a semiconductor shortage plaguing the industry. A car may need anywhere from 100 to 3,500 semiconductor chips.
Most industrial forecasts are that chip availability is going to be better in the second half than it is in the first half, and we think that's true as well.
Cruise, GM's self-driving car subsidiary, saw its losses grow slightly. The San Francisco unit is in the development stage, with its latest funding round closing at $2.75 billion, bringing its evaluation to over $30 billion. Investors include Microsoft and Walmart.
Cruise is moving steadily closer to commercialization. Its real-world driverless vehicle testing in San Francisco and its last-mile delivery pilot with Walmart in Scottsdale, Arizona, will help pave the way for new commitments.
The city of Dubai wants Cruise to be its sole provider of self-driving taxis, planning on using up to 4,000 of its vehicles by 2030. Cruise was chosen over multiple competitors. Arlene Richards, NTD News.
And you'll soon be able to own a piece of your very favorite donut company. Krispy Kreme is getting ready to go public. It was listed in the NASDAQ and NYSE back in the early 2000s, but in 2009, the SEC issued a cease and desist order against it for inflating its revenues and engaging in illicit activities. It went private again in 2016 when it was bought by a firm that invests in food and beverage brands. The company has since been working to remodel its stores in recent years. We don't know the number of shares to be issued in the new IPO or their price range just yet. An American conglomerate, Honeywell, is getting fined for exporting sensitive data to countries like China. And because it didn't get proper authorization, it'll have to pay $13 million. And just to let you know, Honeywell's first quarter revenue was about $8.5 billion. NTD's Colin Frederickson has the details.
The State Department says Honeywell violated the Arms Export Control Act and the International Traffic in Arms regulations in sending sensitive information to Canada, China, Ireland, Mexico, and Taiwan. The charging letter says the violations took place over 4 years and include sending technical details of military aircraft, such as the F-35 and F-22, helicopters, tanks, and Tomahawk cruise missiles to foreign companies without permission. The State Department says some of the violations harmed national security. The statement says Honeywell agreed to pay a penalty of $13 million within 3 years. $5 million will be suspended on the condition that the money is used to make improvements to Honeywell's compliance program. The State Department says it decided not to take stricter action against Honeywell because the company voluntarily disclosed the violations, recognized the seriousness of them, and has put into practice a number of corrective measures. Honeywell told the Epoch Times that it voluntarily disclosed the violations to authorities. The company says designs were inadvertently shared during normal business discussions and that no detailed manufacturing or engineering expertise was shared. Colin Fredrickson, NTD News.
Elon Musk's SpaceX says over 500,000 people have placed orders for its Starlink satellite internet service. You have to pay a $99 deposit to reserve it, and apparently that doesn't guarantee service. But Musk says the only obstacle is high-density urban areas. Starlink currently has the world's largest satellite network or constellation with 1,500 satellites launched into orbit. Eventually, it plans to deploy 12,000 in total. That'll cost around $10 billion. SpaceX is competing with Jeff Bezos' Project Kuiper. It's also building a satellite constellation for internet service. And it was actually 60 years ago today the first American was launched into space. But now tourists are lining up to go up next. NTD's Evelyn Lee has the story.
3, 2, 1.
60 years ago today, the first American launched into space.
What a beautiful view.
Now everyday people are on the verge of being able to follow in Ellen Shepard's cosmic footsteps. Jeff Bezos' rocket company Blue Origin is opening up ticket sales Wednesday for suborbital sightseeing trips. But space tourism isn't new.
Most people don't realize that space tourism started 20 years ago.
In 2001, a California businessman paid $20 million to launch into space atop a Russian rocket. Virginia-based Space Adventures arranged his week-long trip and then 7 more tourist flights after that. And Anderson says the American public liked it.
It's the inherent curiosity of humans. We want to know what's out there. We want to see what it looks like when we look back at the Earth. We want to experience weightlessness.
Now space travel is in the grasp of those who can afford it.
I mean, the biggest thing is, of course, that we now have SpaceX that's launched and landed and repeats with reusable vehicles with a whole new technology. And so that's really the game changer.
Besides Jeff Bezos' Blue Origin, Richard Branson's Virgin Galactic also aims to open up ticket sales for tourist flights next year. Eric Anderson sees the industry focusing on 3 areas.
There's going to be people focused on the moon, like Blue Origin or Jeff Bezos or even SpaceX that won this contract from NASA. And then there's going to be people focused on going to Mars.
Another focus could be low Earth orbit. Anderson says there might be a space station or a hotel that people can visit in the future. The entrepreneurs flying with SpaceX early next year are paying $55 million each for 1.5 weeks in space. Virgin Galactic put their tickets up for considerably less. For a couple of minutes of weightlessness, the price is set at $250,000 for now. According to Anderson, space tourism will be a huge part of the future. But until then, we all need to be patient because it will take longer. Evelyn Lee, NTD News.
And Facebook's oversight board is upholding the decision to ban Trump from its platform. It says 2 of Trump's Facebook posts during the Capitol breach led them to the decision. But the board also found that Facebook's indefinite suspension violates the rules. It says Facebook needs to give a specific time frame or announce a permanent suspension within 6 months. Trump responded saying free speech has been taken away from him. One conservative expert says the board's decision isn't surprising and argued no one company should have the power to block a president from communicating with the American people. And Wall Street stocks ended mixed today. The Dow closing at a record high, rising 97 points, 0.29%. S&P 500 pretty level, 0.07% gain. The Nasdaq dropping though, 51 points, 0.37%. You could say markets cooled off a little today after Tuesday's sell-off. It was after concerns about rising inflation, potentially higher interest rates. Later yesterday, Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen clarified her earlier statement, saying she was not predicting or recommending that the Federal Reserve raise interest rates. And today, bond yields were stable. 10-year Treasury note trading at a yield of 1.57%, slightly down from Tuesday. Oil pulled back a bit while gold inched up. Is the US dollar losing its appeal? The share of dollar reserves held by the world's central banks fell to 59% in the fourth quarter of last year. That's the lowest level in 25 years. It's according to an IMF survey of about 150 countries. IMF says the move partly reflects the declining role of the US dollar in the global economy over the long term. Another factor driving the change could be exchange rate fluctuations. A weaker dollar results in a smaller share of global reserves since the dollar value of reserves denominated in other currencies increases. But despite major changes in the international monetary system over the past 6 decades, the dollar remains the dominant international reserve currency. It does, however, face competition from other currencies used by central banks for international transactions like the euro. Since the euro was launched in 1999, the share of US dollar assets in central bank reserves has dropped by 12 percentage points. New York lawmakers are trying to freeze Bitcoin mining for 3 years. It's over environmental concerns. A bill in the New York Senate would review greenhouse gas emissions caused by Bitcoin mining, including its effect on wildlife, water, and air. If passed, it would freeze operations across mining centers in New York. One of them is a natural gas power plant in the Finger Lakes region. It mines about 5.5 Bitcoins every day. That's about $300,000 of value. Miami, on the other hand, wants to become the crypto mining capital of the world. Miami's mayor is saying this is another step by New York in the wrong direction. And there's been a significant hack on a blockchain project. It didn't happen on the Bitcoin or Ethereum blockchains. It happened on the Binance blockchain. Not to get too technical, but the hackers took advantage of a vulnerability in a poorly written smart contract. That's something like an automated software program that allowed them to make off with $30 million in crypto. Kent Barton is head of research and development at the crypto exchange Shapeshift. He says it's likely both the developers and regular investors lost money in the hack. Asked him if he could explain what happened exactly.
So the way this works, this applies to pretty much all of decentralized finance, or DeFi. There is a project called Spartan running on the Binance smart contract platform. And like all DeFi projects, it runs on code on a blockchain that anybody can see. And this is one of the strengths of blockchain technology, is it's transparent. However, an attacker found a flaw in the code whereby they increased the value of the overall pool held in this exchange or this project, and then they were able to quickly withdraw funds by virtue of exploiting that flaw.
So what is it, a development problem? Is it a problem on the developer side? Is that what happened?
That would be accurate to say. There is an issue with the code. If the developers had thought through all of the implications of this code, then the attacker would not have been able to do this. And it kind of speaks to one of the challenges of programming these complex mechanisms that live on blockchains.
So is it common, given the complexity of it?
This type of thing is something we've seen a fair amount, and I would say increasingly in the crypto space. I think there's two reasons for that, Paul. One is the fact that investors are just very eager in this bull market to put their money into things that have a higher reward but are also riskier. The other issue is that there's a lot of projects out there in the DeFi space that haven't been battle tested yet. They haven't seen these weird cases where people try to attack them and things like that. So when there's a higher amount of new projects, that means there's a higher opportunity for attackers to find these hidden bugs that people didn't know about before.
What do you think the solution is?
Well, that's a great question. The solution probably lies along a few different paths. One is to only invest or only trade with projects that are audited, and these platforms should all go through third-party audits. There's a lot of platforms out there that have not received an audit, and the problem with that is that people haven't really gone through all the code and carefully vetted and done the due diligence. Now, audits are no guarantee that the code will not be flawed. In fact, Spartan did go through one audit, but there's different teams out there all able to apply this due diligence. The other thing is just, over time, I mentioned that we're battle tested. This is very important. The longer a project has been around, the more opportunity potential hackers have had a chance to exploit it. And as time goes on, that tends to lend more credibility to its security.
Ken Barton, Shapeshift. And the futures exchange operator CME Group, based in Chicago, is permanently closing the physical trading pits it shut down during the pandemic. The euro-dollar options pit, which reopened last summer, will remain open. It allows trading both the physical floor and electronically. The London Metal Exchange plans to announce next month whether it'll reopen its physical trading floor or not. And the New York Stock Exchange partially reopened its trading floor in May of last year. And a federal judge says the CDC overstepped its authority. That's when the agency imposed a nationwide eviction ban. It was put in place to help renters who have fallen behind on payments in homes during the pandemic. The judge vacated the freeze. The ruling was a relief for landlords, many of whom face growing struggles to pay their own bills because they're unable to collect rents from tenants. The moratorium was first enacted under former President Trump and later extended through June. It's unclear what will happen now, though. The government is appealing the decision, the White House estimating that 1 in 5 renters were delinquent in payments by January. And bad news for the nation's small businesses. The Small Business Administration says the Paycheck Protection Program is out of cash. $248 billion was allotted to help businesses struggling during the pandemic. The SBA says the money ran out almost a month before the program was scheduled to close on May 31st. Venues and restaurants still have access to 2 grants controlled by the federal agency, though. The Shuttered Venue Operators Grant opened last month, and the Restaurant Revitalization Fund opened on Monday. SBA says it will still accept some new PPP applications for businesses in underserved areas, but for the program is now closed to the majority of businesses. And the European Union unveiled plans today to cut its dependency on Chinese and other suppliers. It's focusing on 6 areas, including raw materials, pharmaceutical ingredients, and semiconductors. NTD's Patrick Hayden takes a look.
The European Union has a new plan to cut its dependency on Chinese and other foreign suppliers. It said Wednesday the pandemic has highlighted the problem of being too reliant on single-source supply chains.
Disruptions in supply chains, well, that leads to lack of essential products, high volumes of non-compliant goods, and poor coordination, well, that has challenged us heavily.
The bloc analysed 5,000 products. It found that Europe relies on China for roughly half of the products used in sensitive ecosystems. The EU wants to cut foreign reliance in 6 areas. They are raw materials, pharmaceutical ingredients, semiconductors, batteries, hydrogen and cloud and edge computing. For raw materials, the EU depends on China for 98% of its rare earth minerals, Turkey for 98% of its borate, South Africa for 71% of its platinum, and India and China for 66% of its pharmaceutical ingredients. The EU plans include diversifying its supply chains, stockpiling where possible, and investing in innovation. It also plans to tackle unfair subsidies from governments on imports, which is common in China.
And one of the oldest rules that we have is that we don't allow subsidies which harms fair competition.
The proposed measures include the ability to fine companies up to 10% of their annual turnover for unfair practices, or be forced to sell part of their business. Vestager says the EU is the first trading bloc globally to introduce tools to tackle harmful subsidies. EU member states and the bloc's parliament will need to agree the proposed measures. Patrick Hayden, NTD News, London.
Still to come, we hear from a restaurant owner who says business is going well, but workers are hard to find. She says she's not alone. And travel demand is rising. A record number of people are traveling by car and by plane as consumer confidence soars. That and more after this short break.
In uncertain times, people rush to buy physical gold and silver. It's strong, solid, dependable. Now is the time to buy from the trusted source, Westminster Mint. With 20 years experience, an A+ BBB rating, and our unconditional 30-day money-back guarantee, Westminster Mint is America's dealer. The best value in gold coins today is this newly released 2021 $50 American Gold Eagle coin, certified a perfect 70 by the world's largest grading service, NGC. At 1 full ounce of pure gold, this 2021 Gold Eagle is the biggest and most beautiful coin struck for circulation. Get yours now while you can at our exclusive low price. Call right now and get the Gold Eagle's perfect companion, the 2021 Silver Eagle, absolutely free with your purchase. With free shipping and a 30-day money-back guarantee, Westminster Mint is America's dealer. Hurry for your early release 2021 American Gold Eagle and free Silver Eagle before they're gone. Call now.
Hey Bobo, do trees tell each other stories?
I'm sorry, I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, why don't we go find out? Listen.
Can birds draw pictures?
I don't have an answer for that.
Dad, do stars visit their friends?
Look!
Small businesses across America have dealt with the virus lockdowns in different ways. But government support may have brought some downsides. One restaurant owner in Chicago tells us what she's doing to keep her business going.
As lockdowns ease and business starts returning to normal, new employees should be showing up with resumes in hand. But that's not the case so far, according to the owner of the Soul Shack, Keisha Rucker.
Yes. So this is the funny part is now we're currently short-staffed. So I literally had people in here multitasking. I was in here cashiering. My daughter's in here cashiering. I actually had to hire my daughter to come in and be one of the cashiers because I can't find staff.
Rucker is not alone. She says she sees hiring signs all over the city.
I spoke to a couple other business owners, and I think a lot of people are still getting unemployment, and the unemployment is probably higher than what they're getting at the restaurant, in the restaurant industry.
One of Rucker's longtime chefs shares her view.
Right now with the stimulus checks and everybody being able to receive unemployment, a lot of people would rather not work. Some people, it could be a safety risk. Some people just prefer to collect unemployment.
No one really wants to work. Like everyone, I feel like COVID has crippled a lot of people, so everyone is expecting everything to be done for them. Like, you know, the government sending out the stimulus packages and, you know, extended unemployment, everyone is crippled. You know, I can't depend on that. Like, because at the end of the day, they can stop it at any moment, and then you're just looking up like, oh, you know, what am I supposed to do now?
I believe a lot of people are really just staying at home. It's comfortable. I personally don't understand how I have to work. I have bills to pay. So of course, I'm trying to work and keep the doors open.
She does it not just for money, but for love.
This is my baby. This is like my child. I actually do have children. I have 3 daughters, but this is my child because I had a vision, I put the vision into play, and I watched it flourish.
Rucker has run her restaurant since 2019 and plans to keep it open much longer.
And after more than a year of limited travel or no travel at all, a record number of people are gearing up to go on vacation or visit their loved ones. And that demand is raising prices, whether you're traveling on the road or in the skies. Andy Geither takes a closer look.
With COVID-19 cases down in much of the U.S., that travel boom experts have been predicting is here, and it's not even summer yet. A record number of people are driving and flying places.
As more and more Americans get vaccinated, there's just a larger consumer confidence in terms of travel, and we're seeing that already.
And gas prices are soaring. Monday's national average price for a gallon of gasoline is $2.90. According to AAA, that's up 1 cent from last week. For comparison, 1 year ago, the price was $1.78.
It's still different, right? We're still traveling with masks. We're still traveling with hand sanitizer, cleaning supplies, calling ahead to understand if there are restrictions in place. But when it comes to the volume of people traveling, that's definitely going to feel more normal than we have seen in the past year.
People are also taking to the skies. On Sunday, the TSA screened more than 1.6 million people across U.S. airports, nearly 10 times higher than a year ago.
If you're flying, you should not expect an empty plane these days. The TSA screening about 65% of passengers from pre-pandemic, which is pretty high considering there's almost no international flights today.
TSA has reported more than 1 million daily screened passengers since March 11th. I'm Mandy Gaither.
As the latest business updates for today, you can still catch NTD Evening News with Stephanie Cox. That starts at 6:30 p.m. Eastern. For NTD Business, that's all for today. Thank you for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.
We have a new channel. Subscribe to us on YouTube at NTD News. Get the highlights of our news broadcast and the most important headlines that we curate especially for you.
Don't miss out on important news. Our videos are being deleted. So if you don't want to be cut off from honest news, take a moment to sign up for our newsletter at newsletter.ntd.com so you don't lose access to NTD. Go to newsletter.ntd.com to sign up for our evening newsletter.